In today's video, I'm going to be telling you how I handle NPC happiness. Greetings friends, Khaios here. Town NPCs are an important component to the Terraria experience. They offer everything from weapons to armor, blocks to paints, and many things in between. In 1.4, NPC happiness was added. Since then, I've mostly just ignored it as I build in journey mode, and tenant happiness matters not to the landlord. But I am going to start a couple of series where the NPC happiness will be a factor, and many people have been requesting a tutorial for this, so today I'll be giving you 2 ways that you could set up NPCs to maximize their happiness, as well as a way that I prefer to set them up. Quickly, before getting into that, you may have noticed that I don't take any sponsorship opportunities outside of an affiliate link with Terraria merch. While I've had many sponsorship offers come my way, I refuse to promote a product that I don't already support and use myself, so I pass on a lot of potential revenue for the channel for the sake of not accidentally scamming you all with a sponsorship gone awry or a predatory game. I'm still working on rebuilding my standing with the YouTube algorithm, and ad revenue isn't yet what it used to be, so if you're able to, and if you'd like to help support the channel, please consider heading over to my Patreon. I offer several rewards at various tiers, ranging from access to my builds to your name in the credits, as well as an invite to my private Discord server, where you can chat with me directly. If Patreon isn't your thing, you can also get similar rewards by becoming a channel member right here on YouTube. Or if you just want to leave a tip in the jar, you can hit the thanks button. If you're looking to support the channel in a free way, make sure you're subscribed and leave a like to help with the algorithm overlord. Thank you all for your support. Now, let's talk about NPC happiness. Happiness in Terraria provides price modifiers with your town NPCs. A happy NPC will give you up to a 25% discount on their goods, and you'll get a 33% increased money when selling items to them, while an unhappy NPC can add up to a 50% markup on their sold products, and they will give you 33% less money on items that you sell to them. Happiness also changes the amount of money the tax collector will store, as he can hold up to 33 gold when he's content. Happiness is determined by 3 factors: population, relationships, and location. Town NPCs do not like to be overcrowded. I can relate. They gain a bonus to their happiness score if there are no more than 2 NPCs within 25 blocks of their home. It's not just their immediate neighbors that are a factor, however, as if there are more than 3 NPCs within 120 tiles, they will lose that bonus. They get an overcrowded penalty if there are more than 3 NPCs within 25 blocks, or more than 4 NPCs within 120 blocks. The next factor that affects happiness is the quality of those neighbors living within the 25 block range. Every NPC has their own preference. An NPC will love some NPCs, like some others, but they'll also dislike or even hate some of the others. If you surround NPCs with others that they love, their happiness will drastically increase, while surrounding them with NPCs that they hate will make them extremely unhappy. This is a bit of a complex factor, as it isn't one-to-one. For example, the Goblin Tinkerer and Mechanic both love each other, but if you look at the Golfer and the Merchant, the Golfer hates the Merchant, but the Merchant actually likes the Golfer. So NPC relationships are a bit complicated and add quite a bit of nuance when setting up these villages. Thirdly, any good realtor will tell you that the most important part of a house is location, location, location. This concept carries somewhat into Terraria as well, as each NPC has their own preference of biome. Most NPCs will like one biome and dislike another, while feeling neutral about all the other locations. The only NPC that loves or hates a biome is Santa. The rest of them are not as picky. So now that we know how happiness works, I want to make 2 lists of NPCs today. The first one will be going over the community's recommended groupings based on the official Terraria wiki. Their priorities are geared more towards optimization and progression than they are to building, so I do want to include them, as this will probably be of interest to most of you. The second list of pairings will be my own personal choices of how I want to group up the NPCs, from the perspective of somebody that loves to build, as well as somebody who prioritizes location over discount. There are 4 final points that I want to touch on before I start pairing up the villagers. Firstly, I don't think it's possible to max out every single NPC's happiness at the same time. You can certainly make them all happy, but I don't believe you can get the maximum discount across the board at once. That said, no NPCs in this video will be unhappy, so everybody will be providing discounts. Second, the town pets and town slimes do not factor into NPC happiness at all. They are neither loved nor hated, and they do not count towards overcrowding. You can set up houses with all 11 pets and slimes living around a single town NPC, and that NPC will never feel overcrowded. So feel free to place these wherever you want, though as a bit of a side tip, the slimes and pets do count as town NPCs for pylons, so they can really help you out with that, if you end up having an NPC living on his own. Third, the biomes can overlap. For example, we can make the hallowed snow biome. If an NPC likes one half of the combination but dislikes the other, what exactly happens? Well, if there's a combination of the 2 biomes, the liked biome will always override the disliked in terms of priority. The nurse likes the hollow, but she dislikes the snow biome. She will be happy despite disliking the snow. The final point is that one NPC is not like the others. The princess loves all of the town NPCs, and while they don't love her back, she is liked by all of them in return. She also doesn't have any biome preferences, so she won't care where you move her. No matter who you group her with or where you place her, there will be a happiness increase with the princess as long as you're not reaching an overcrowding threshold. So with all of that in mind, let's take a look at the community's recommended pairings. On the wiki, the NPC Happiness Guide has a few different strategies for different stages of progression in your playthrough. For the sake of time, I'm just going to take a look at the list of NPC pairings when you have all of them unlocked. If you're curious about the different stages of progression, I'll leave a link to the wiki in the description. In the forest, they appear to recommend 2 separate situations. The merchant is moved into the forest on his own, next to no other NPC. Then they separate the zoologist and the golfer, moving them in together a little bit further away from the merchant. The reason behind this is because the golfer hates the merchant, and if they were living next to each other, it would hinder discounts. You can keep them in the same forest and even use them for the same pylon as long as their houses are more than 25 blocks away from each other, which feels perfectly reasonable to me. If you decide you want the merchant to be in a different forest and you want him to have a working pylon, you can move a town slime or pet into the house with him. That will allow the pylon to work. Moving beneath the surface, we have an underground hallow recommendation. It wants the tavern keep, who favors the hallow, and the demolitionist, who favors the underground, to live next to each other. No other NPCs should be moved into this location. On the surface hallow, the party girl and wizard really enjoy each other's company, so they'll be living up there together. Back underground, this time in the snow biome, the goblin tinkerer, mechanic, and princess will be sharing a cold subterranean town. In a bit of a temperature shock, we are heading over to the desert, where the nurse, dye trader, and arms dealer will be setting up shop. The next recommendation on the guide has a bit of a choice to it. We can either place this town in a desert, or we can build it on the surface of the snow biome. In that town, we'll be housing the steampunker and the cyborg. If you want a bigger discount from the steampunker, place the town in the desert. But if you're looking for a bigger cyborg discount, place them in the snow biome. Welcome to the jungle. We've got the dryad, painter, and witch doctor. Now it's time to take to the high seas and set up homes for the stylist, angler, and pirate. We are once again heading back to the snow biome to build a house for the tax collector, who fittingly lives in solitude. Just make sure to give him a pet if you want a working pylon nearby. Finally, the wiki places the guide, clothier, and truffle in the mushroom biome. It doesn't specifically say to place it underground, but I believe this is how you should be doing it, as the clothier prefers to be underground. Though you could still do this on the surface, you'll just get a slightly less discount from him. The only reason the guide is here is because he makes the truffle happy. Ultimately, the guide's happiness doesn't matter since he doesn't sell anything or offer any services that cost money, so discounts don't apply to him. And that's the entire optimized list of NPC pairings. Now, I personally don't set up towns in this way because I want to prioritize a few different NPCs, but more importantly, I want to set up towns in locations that I feel look the best. So now let's take a look at my personal NPC groupings. When it comes to how I set things up, I'm going to try and make most of the NPCs relatively happy. However, some are higher priority than others, and some have no priority at all. I'll spend most of my money at the Painter, Mechanic, Goblin Tinkerer, and Demolitionist. I also like having the Nurse save my butt during boss fights, so these are my top priority NPCs in terms of happiness. The Angler and the Guide are bottom priority, as discounts don't affect either of them. So beyond the top priority NPCs, I'm not going to focus too much on maximizing NPC happiness. I'd much rather pair NPCs up in groupings and locations that make sense with my NPC headcanon. So let's start off with the primary money sink, the Painter. I have no complaints with the wiki here, so I will also set up the Dryad, Witch Doctor, and the Painter. Of course, this is because they all have relatively good relations with each other, and they all like the jungle, but in my headcanon, I imagine the Painter is traveling to the jungle for some artistic inspiration, where he encounters the Dryad and the Witch Doctor, who call that area their home. Moving on, we are deviating from the wiki a little bit by placing the Mechanic, Goblin Tinkerer, and Demolitionist together in a snowy underground biome. The Mechanic and Goblin are in love with each other, so that's a no-brainer. The Goblin prefers the underground, and the Mechanic prefers the snow biome, so I figured we might as well combine them, just like the wiki does. The difference here is that I placed the Demolitionist with the pairing. The Demolitionist also enjoys being below the surface, and he's friendly with the Mechanic, so it feels like a good fit to me. My next priority is the Nurse. I'm not going to place her in the Hallow because rather than min-maxing her discount, I want to place her with the Arms Dealer and the Steampunker in the desert. The idea here is to have the Nurse and Arms Dealer living together for their relationship, but when I mix in the Steampunker, the steampunk gunslinging combination gives me Wild Wild West vibes, and as cheesy as that movie is, I'm a fan of it. So that's why I group up the NPCs this way within the desert. While we're in the desert, I'm also going to set up another house for the Dye Trader who will live solo. I've got some ideas for his house that I feel would best fit him being isolated. Next up, I'll swing by the forest where I'll actually have two different towns. The Zoologist, Golfer, and Wizard will make up the first group. The Wizard likes the Golfer, and the Golfer and the Zoologist like each other. I imagine that the Wizard and Golfer are old golf buddies, while the Zoologist is the groundskeeper of the golf course. The second town in the forest will have the Merchant, Tax Collector, and Clothier. I know that this combination will slightly harm those discounts because the Merchant does not like the Tax Collector, and I also know that the Clothier doesn't really care about the location nor these neighbors, but I'm kind of putting discounts on the back burner for this group as they're not really a top priority on things that I buy anyway. I just think it's rather fitting to have a couple of shops near each other with the Tax Collector looming over them right around the corner. Now, we're going to swing over to the land of sparkles and rainbows. The party girl, stylist, and princess will be living in the fantastical Hallow biome together. While the stylist is technically apathetic towards this biome and the party girl, it doesn't really matter to me. All of the NPCs like the princess, so she'll be happy. And I really don't care that much about giving her the maximum discounts. My avatar obviously doesn't care about hairstyle, so the discount really doesn't matter to me. The party girl sells a few useful building items like the fog machine, so she's the higher discount priority, which is why we're placing this in the Hallow, and the princess is happy no matter where she goes. Plus, I just really feel like the Hallow fits the vibe of these NPCs rather well. I guess it's now time for the beach episode, where we'll be housing the Angler, Pirate, and Tavern Keep. The angler is an orphan, and the pirate loves the angler, so I've always imagined that he sees himself as a bit of a father figure for the little guy, teaching him the ways of piracy, though all the little tyke really cares about is fishing. What goes better together than pirates and booze, so obviously the tavern keep would fit in this grouping. The angler rebels against his father figure, and he doesn't like how much time the pirate spends at the tavern, so he doesn't really like the tavern keeper, but he sticks around because there are a lot of fish in the ocean, and that's kind of the logic behind this town grouping. We're nearly done now, so let's head to the mushroom biome. This can be either above or below ground. The wiki put the clothier in this group, which is really funny because the clothier loves mushrooms, but the shrooms don't really like him back. But that's not what I want to do. Instead, I like the idea that the guide has been captured by the truffle, who is perhaps trying to infect him with a group of spores, turning him into a mushroom being himself. Who knows? That's just where I'm going to stick these two. The last two NPCs that I have to place are the cyborg and Santa. They are both fans of the snow biome, so that's where I'll be placing them, but I'm actually not going to house them together. They will both be living solitary lives, having their own houses with nobody else nearby. Mostly, the reason behind that is because I have specific ideas for what I want to build each of their houses to look like, and they just don't mesh together. Speaking of building specific houses, let me know what you all think of me doing a short video series where I build unique houses for each of the towns in this video. Should I just do my NPC sorting? Should I do the more optimal one? Or both? Let me know what you think. But that's going to wrap up my guide for today. If you found it helpful, please consider subscribing to the channel. A huge thank you to my biggest supporter for the month. Sarcasm not intended. And be sure to check out my channel artist MythicalWater, linked in the description below. Thank you all very much for watching. Be back soon with a new video. Happy building.